viewers, federal government passes decisions about increasing flights, banking and other issues to boost trust and ease lives of civilians in Tigray. And China's supposed spy balloons cast bad spell on diplomatic ties between the two biggest economies. Hello and thank you for joining us. You're watching Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Tabitha John. Stay with us. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed put forward directions on how to address pitfalls observed in the implementation of the peace deal signed with the TPLF in Pretoria, South Africa back in November. Meeting face-to-face for the first time in over 2 years at the Halala Kella cluster section of the Koisha Dyeing project in Dauro zone of southern Ethiopia, the two sides dwelt at length on the pros and cons of the implementation of the peace deal. Jerusalem Betzaha has the details.
The meeting, which came unexpected and showed Prime Minister Abiy face-to-face with previously embattled TPLF leaders, attracted the attention of quite a number of foreign media outlets. The two sides met months after a peace deal between the federal government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front TPLF signed in South Africa's capital Pretoria silenced the guns in northern Ethiopia. As part of the deal, the parties agreed to observe an immediate cessation of hostilities and to allow the restoration of humanitarian aid for the people in need. Talking to ETV, Getachew Reda, member of the TPLF Peace Committee, lauded the resumption of basic services such as communications, banking and electricity, among others. He nevertheless said more needs to be done to address the ever-growing demand in Tigray.
ባንኮች ተከፍተዋል ባንኮች ይከፈቱ እንጂ
Banks have resumed services in Tigray state, but they are cash strapped. The people have been subjected to all sorts of problems because of this undesirable development at the banks. Be that as it may, we have had quite a fruitful discussion and hope to turn a corner on these issues.
ፈት ጉዳይ ሳይሆን አገልግሎቱን በተሟላ መልኩ ማስጀመር ነው የሚሉ ታይቶ
The meeting finally saw the passing of decisions regarding more flights, banking and other issues so as to address the ever-widening demand in Tigray.
All the members of the committee appreciated the resumption of banking in Tigray region. However, faced with the reality of an ever-expanding demand, we have passed some major decisions. We have also jointly evaluated ways of boosting land transportation services, increasing flights and ensuring unfettered access to humanitarian supply.
However, the whole issue boils down to building more trust between the two sides. Some of the participants underlined this.
The first and foremost thing is to ensure lasting peace in the country. We have to build trust between us. This then serves as a leverage to lay our hands on other pressing matters needing our attention.
Under the terms of the peace deal, the TPLF agreed to disarm and re-establish the authority of the federal government in return for the restoration of access to Tigray, which was largely cut off from the outside world during the war.
Meanwhile, Deputy Prime Minister Demeke Mekonnen lauded efforts being made to bring about lasting peace in the country, saying that the initiatives have many implications to the country as a whole. Mekonnen went on to say that the implementation of the peace deal so far remains encouraging despite the odds faced. We have more on that story. Take a look.
Demeke was part of the Ethiopian side, which sat face-to-face with the TPLF at the Halala Kella cluster section of the Koisha project in Dauro zone of Southern National St. People's region. During the discussion, which brought Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed face-to-face with the TPLF for the first time in over 2 years, Demeke said the ongoing implementation of the peace agreement was evaluated to be encouraging. Saying that the Pretoria deal remained to be of symbolic significance, Mekonnen also told EBC that the deal, which ends the 2-year-long fighting, is meaningful for the country as a whole and for those people who have experienced the problem. The people have painfully waited for this opportunity for peace and their readiness is clear, he said, adding, the two bodies designated for this work have briefed us of the activities they have done so far, identifying issues that need priority in the future.
ዘላቂ ሰላም ለማምጣት የተጀመረው እንቅስቃሴ ለሀገር
Ongoing efforts to bring sustainable peace and stability to the nation are meaningful to Ethiopians. The people remains committed and ready for long-lasting peace. The two sides have shared views on the implementation of the signed peace agreement and mapped out strategies to give peace their spirit of permanence. I can confidently declare the overall process to be optimistic.
የተሰየሙት አካላት እስካሁን ያደረጉትን እንቅስቃሴ
Pretoria remains etched to memory of Ethiopian as it was there 2 months ago that the TPLF and the government resolved the disharmony between them that led to the bloody war in northern Ethiopia. McConnell did not hide the fact that the implementation, despite progressing well, still leaves much to be desired.
ከምንም በላይ ጦርነት፣ ግጭት፣ የዕለት ጦርነት እንዳይኖር ቃል ተጠብቆ
The two sides are hard at work implementing the agreements reached in Pretoria and subsequently in Nairobi about 2 months back. The speed of the agreement is a daunting task and needs nothing short of wiser and more calculated decisions. We need to build trust at all levels and creating transparency in the peace agreement.
On 2nd February, the US said over the past 3 months since the signing of the agreement, important progress by the parties in implementing key aspects of the agreement have been seen, including the steady and growing delivery of humanitarian aid.
Ethiopian ambassador to Pakistan underlined the need to frame foreign policy priorities from the perspective of synergy or Meddemer. The basic tenets of synergy help the nation to successfully navigate the waters of engagement, re-engagement and normalization. Talking to ETV, Becker further underscored that Ethiopia is in a position to influence multilateralism from the perspective of synergy. Take a listen.
What attached us? Number one, we share a global, collective responsibilities and peace and security. So Pakistan and Ethiopia, our fellow, under the helmet of United Nations, they've fallen for the cause of, international peace and security. We have did this one in Somalia, DRCs, and we have been cooperating along this line. So this one will be more strengthened after this and in a very synergetic way. The second is, Pakistans believe on our countries, especially, during this testing time, we also get a lot of partners. One of those is Pakistan. When politically motivated sanctions levied on Ethiopia, they said, no, Ethiopia has the capabilities, it's a long-standing state.
Ethiopia, he said, must cultivate closer ties with countries like Pakistan, who stood by it during trying times, and who will say no to undue foreign pressures and arm-twisting tactics of the West, such as sanctions. Listen.
The framing of our foreign policy basically starts from, what you call it, asset, institutional memory collections, which is from the perspective of synergy, Meddemer. So that synergy, basically what we have done in the last 2 years, and the remaining tasks ahead of us. Basically, those things, we have learned something. One thing, now we have developed previously 2, engagement and re-engagement, now normalizations, and taking Ethiopia's right positions in this global changing dynamism. One thing we have to do is continuous engagement with more international communities to ensure bilateral, interest, and plus also influence in the multilateral diplomatic engagement.
Welcome to the land of origins. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia is pleased to serve all your traveler banking needs. If you have money from any of these 16 countries, you can convert it to local currency by visiting our nearest branch. Alternatively, our secure Forex ATMs accept cash exchange, or if you prefer using your cards, we've partnered with Visa, MasterCard, and UnionPay so that you can withdraw cash from our local ATMs or make cashless transactions at thousands of local POS partners securely and with confidence. We are linked with more than 700 global banks through our direct SWIFT address, CBE Theta. We also work with 16 international money transfer agents, out of which Tune and WorldRemit enable you to make direct deposits into our savings and current accounts or our popular CBE Birr mobile wallet. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, the bank you can always rely on.
Years ago, horse riders in the Awi zone of the state of Amhara established the Sabat-Bet Agau Equestrian Association. Today, more than 60,000 horse riders are members of the association. By the end of January, the association annually conducts a horse riding parade and show in Enjibara town. The Sabat-Bet Agau Horse Riders Equestrian Association was established by people of the local who were fighting the Italian invasion.
Yawi Mahaver ማለት ነው ያዊ ህዝብ ማህበር ማለት ነው
The annual horse riding festival is probably the largest horse riding festival on the planet. Horse is an integral part of the Agau life. The Agau used their horses for transport, for weddings, and the horse race as well. It was during the brutal invasion of the fascist Italy that the Agau on their horsebacks repulsed the enemy's aggression. The Agau Horse Racing Festival is celebrated colorfully in Enjibara, seat of the Awi Agau administrative zone of the state.
ዋንጫ ያመጣና
አንደኛ ይወጡ ነበር አባት እሺ
እና ከዛለኝ እሱን አይቼ እኔም መልመድ ፈልጌ አልምዴ ስለው አልመደኝ
የፈረስ ስም ማን ነው ሻንቆ ነው ይባላል እንዴት ነው ጉልበቱ ጎበዝ ነው
አዎ ምንም አይደለም
ተለማምደሻል ለዚህ ዝግጅት ስንተኛ ትወጫለሽ
አንደኛ እወጣለሁ ብዬ ሞክራለሁ
Speaker of the House of Federation called on civil society organizations in Ethiopia to support the ongoing endeavors in nation-state building and democratization process through maximizing their engagement. A half-day workshop intended to boost up government bodies and civil society partnerships in building a strong nation-state was held today. The speaker, Agenyo Tashagar, said the government is convinced that the civil society plays huge contribution in peace building and democratic processes as well as nation building. According to him, the government has created enabling environment for civil societies in the country in major areas, including political and economic reforms, federalism, and nation building. Ethiopia has undertaken political reform over the past 4 years by revising various laws and proclamations that stifled the free engagement of the civil society for many years. Pointing out about the reform the country has been experiencing over the past 4 years, he had that to say. A member of the diaspora community said the diaspora community has relative potential in terms of public diplomacy and digital diplomacy, urging the government to put this to maximum use. He said the Ethiopian government should work closely with the diaspora community to achieve better results in terms of using the diaspora's potential as an actor in soft as opposed to coercive power in international politics. Johannes Fentahun has the following account.
In international relations, countries use members of the diaspora community in different parts of the world to influence different countries and international institutions, or to make them respect their national interests, no less than the activities they do to protect their national interests through regular diplomatic relations. Many countries have succeeded in this regard, and Ethiopia is one of them. During his time with the TV, Daniel Nebiyu, the editor-in-chief of Abron, an Ethio-American digital media platform, said that the members of the Ethiopian diaspora community have different capacities to protect the national interests of their country, so the government should work closely.
The diaspora has certain comparative advantages compared to the formal diplomatic engagements that Ethiopia does. And some of those advantages are linguistic advantages. We speak the native languages of those countries wherever we are. People, Ethiopians in the Middle East speak really, perfect Arabic. Ethiopians in the United States speak English, or in Europe, whatever, French. So we have that comparative advantage, and we have to use that in support of our country, not in support of political parties or any kind of political ideology, but in support of our country. There's a distinction there.
Internationally, influential countries have different capacities to influence different countries, and as a developing country, Ethiopia should use the diaspora community as a soft power, according to Daniel.
Ethiopia is a developing country. It's a very underdeveloped country so far. So we don't have the coercive powers that certain countries have. So countries with military power, countries with media power, or countries with a diverse entertainment sector, or countries with resources like oil, we don't have those advantages. So our advantage is really in soft power. So our diaspora can kind of really fill those gaps. We can use our soft power where we don't have the same kind of capabilities in terms of international diplomatic engagements as some other bigger countries do. So our soft power is our diaspora. So really the government engaging with the diaspora and activating the diaspora to endorse Ethiopian interests, Ethiopian national interests. I think that's a very, very critical thing to do.
The editor-in-chief, who gave suggestions based on his own experience regarding digital media, said that since countries are using social media in a way that protects their own interests, Ethiopia as a country should build a social media platform to protect its national interests. For this, Ethiopian creative professionals should pay attention and work according to Daniel.
And I think it's important for, Ethiopia as a country to consider our own kind of social media platform. This will take time, but I think it's important because one of the things about social media and digital diplomacy is like those that control the platform kind of control the narrative. So if you're active on a foreign-based platform and you're trying to, diplomatically endorse your side of the story, those platforms are not necessarily open to everybody. As we've seen over the past 2 years, there were so many different Ethiopian Twitter accounts that were blocked, that were promoting Ethiopian perspectives, that were pro-Ethiopian. Some of them have been released, but some of them have not. So eventually, when push comes to shove, the people that own the platforms control the narrative. So that's something I think the state in this country and people that are innovative in this country, people that are in IT, in computer science and things like that have to consider.
Daniel also expressed that Ethiopia should work using various international languages in the mainstream media and that it can use the potential of the diaspora to make this a reality.
In business news, Ethiopian Industry Minister Melaku Alebel underscored the need to boost the manufacturing industries to realize economic resilience. Industry and Investment Bureau of Oromia State is holding an investment mobilization campaign in Shaggar City Administration under the motto of Made in Ethiopia in participation of investors and other stakeholders. Addressing the investment mobilization platform, Alebel stressed the need to realize competent manufacturing industries through continued support so that the country can remain economically strong and create middle-income citizens. Addressing the bottlenecks faced by the manufacturing industries has been given prior attention by the government so as to boost the sector, he said. The government introduced the Made in Ethiopia initiative to mobilize active participation of the investors and the general public at large in boosting the manufacturing industry sector, Melaku said, adding that the movement has been yielding promising results to this end.
Welcome to the land of origins. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia is pleased to serve all your traveler banking needs. If you have money from any of these 16 countries, you can convert it to local currency by visiting our nearest branch. Alternatively, our secure Forex ATMs accept cash exchange, or if you prefer using your cards, we've partnered with Visa, MasterCard, and UnionPay so that you can withdraw cash from our local ATMs or make cashless transactions at thousands of local POS partners securely and with confidence. We are linked with more than 700 global banks through our direct SWIFT address, CBE Teta. We also work with 16 international money transfer agents, out of which Tune and World Remit enable you to make direct deposits into our savings and current accounts or our popular CBE Burr mobile wallet. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, the bank you can always rely on.
I love the patterns. One of these. You can see the outside of the mosque here. Nearly 50,000 people call the Casbah home, and it's been inhabited since the 2nd century AD. It's all a UNESCO World Heritage Site too. Walking through and suddenly seeing all these views of the Mediterranean and the city in the distance. Many cities around Algeria have their own Casbahs, including Gardea, which I'll be visiting later on in the trip, but here, the biggest one you'll find in Algiers.
Welcome back. The African Union Commission Cabinet of the Chairperson presented its compliments to the permanent missions of non-African states and international institutions accredited to the African Union. The Commission invited permanent missions of the non-African states to the opening and closing sessions of the 42nd Ordinary Session of the Executive Council and the 36th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the African Union, scheduled to take place place in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia from 15th to 16th February and 18th to 19th February 2023 respectively. The Commission seized the occasion to remind that invitations are strictly directed to respective heads of non-African states and international institutions accredited to the African Union in Addis Ababa, and that the format of participation is 1+0. The statement further reads. And finally, in international news, the Pentagon says another suspected Chinese spy balloon has been discovered, this time flying over Latin America. China denies these claims. This new development reeks of mutual suspicion between the world's two largest economies, just as top diplomats prepare to hold talks in Beijing. Binyam Alemayo brings us up to speed.
Floating above the United States, this balloon is causing major diplomatic problems back on Earth. It was first spotted over Montana by curious residents. The balloon is now believed to be a Chinese espionage platform.
China's decision to fly a surveillance balloon over the continental United States is both unacceptable and irresponsible. That's what this is about. It's a violation of our sovereignty. It's a violation of international law.
China rejects the spying claims and says it's a weather balloon. A spokesperson for the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs says the airship is from China, adding it is a civilian airship used for research, mainly meteorological purposes. The Chinese side says it regrets the unintended entry of the airship into U.S. airspace. Washington isn't convinced of the denial by Beijing, and a planned diplomatic trip to Beijing headed by Antony Blinken has been abruptly called off.
What this has done is created the conditions that undermine the purpose of the trip, including ongoing efforts to build a floor under the relationship and to address a broad range of issues that are of concern to the American people, I believe to the Chinese people, and certainly as well to people around the world.
The trip was expected to be a significant step in improving ties between the two superpowers. The controversial balloon has deflated these hopes, while some Americans are demanding it be shot down.
These balloons are so huge that even that number of ammunition sent, that amount of ammunition sent towards it, is only going to cause a very, very slow leak, and it's not going to come down immediately. You can't just pop the balloon and it's going to go away.
On Saturday, Beijing says the U.S. media and politicians had taken advantage of U.S. allegations that China flew an espionage balloon over U.S. territory, while the Pentagon says the balloon poses no physical threat. Some, like retired Army General John Ferrari, who spoke to the Associated Press, say it does. The balloon has no doubt cast a bad spell on diplomatic ties between the two biggest economies, which very often had to go through rough patches.
You're watching Addis News Hour. Here's a reminder of the stories making headlines. Federal government passes decisions about issues to boost trust and ease lives of civilians in Tigray. And China's supposed spy balloons cast a bad spell on diplomatic ties between the two biggest economies. That's all we had for now. I'm Tabitha John. Many thanks for watching. Have a good night and take care.